from us. Your economy get very weak. Ours get very good.
There's another Super Bowl ad in the news today. Perhaps you have seen it. It's gotten quite a bit of media attention.
Thank you, Michigan Senator Debbie Spend It Now. Debbie spends so much American money, you borrow more and more from us. Your economy get very weak. Ours get very good. We take your jobs. Thank you, Debbie Spend It Now.
I think this race for U.S. Senate is between Debbie Spend It Now and Pete Spend It Not. I'm Pete Spend It Not hoekstra, and I approve this message.
I'm kind of sorry we had to play that. We were thinking about some way of talking about the ad without actually playing it, and we couldn't come up with a good answer. The reason I didn't want to play it is because it's obvious what Pete Hoekstra is doing here. He's trolling the media. If you're not familiar with the term trolling, it is internet vernacular for when someone intentionally says something offensive or sensationalistic in order to attract attention. And so far, I must say, it is working. The ad was created by the master of outrage-inducing free media-generating Republican ads, a guy named Fred Davis. He's created ads for the likes of Christine O'Donnell and Michigan Governor Rick Snyder. This one is pretty blatantly racist, and so people are saying it's pretty blatantly racist, which gives Pete Hoekstra a chance to go on TV and refuse to apologize.
I'm not apologizing for this ad at all. I think it clearly drives the message.
And of course, talk more about his attacks on the Democratic incumbent he's trying to challenge for a Senate seat in Michigan, Debbie Stabenow, before a national audience. The ad itself only ran in Michigan. Hoekstra's also trying to raise money from the ad outrage. His campaign sent out this fundraising email today, quote, "Liberals are doing what they always do, crying racism, yada, yada, yada." But the ad, aside from its tone and the predictable and warranted outrage it's attracting, also makes some substantive claims, which are every bit as offensive in their untruthfulness. The core of the ad's argument is that U.S. deficits redistribute power from America to China. And the mechanism by which it does that is that China purchases American treasury bonds, which are the means we use to fund American deficits. When we have a gap between our tax revenue and our spending, we have to make that up with debt. The instrument of that debt is a U.S. Treasury bond, and China, scary China, is buying up all that debt. That notion, take away the offensive way it's couched in Hoekstra's ad, that scary China owns America notion is almost a consensus idea in American politics. It is absolutely everywhere. It's also become a prominent theme in many, many political ads. This is an ad put out last year by the vague front groupish conservative not-for-profit group Citizens Against Government Waste. It's set in Beijing in 2030. Be very afraid.
美国政府企图以庞大的开支和税收来摆脱严重的经济衰退，巨额的所谓刺激开支、庞大的医疗改革、政府接管私有企业、债务累累。当然，我们是他们的大债主。现在他们都得给我们干活。
So that notion of a scary China has become an accepted trope in American politics. The problem is that it's based on a fundamental misunderstanding of just who owns American debt. Based on all of this, what percentage of American debt would you say China owns? I'll do my best Ron Popeil here. Is it 50%, 60%, 70, 80? Could it be that China in fact owns every last piece of our debt? To the pie chart. The answer is roughly 8%. It's not nothing. China is the foreign country that owns the most of American debt, but it's still 8%. In fact, China is just barely ahead of Japan, which owns 6.9% of our debt, and who used to stand in as the scary Asian nation challenging American supremacy when I was a teenager. The UK owns the next biggest chunk. The majority of American debt is owned by, drumroll please, Americans, partly in the form of the Social Security Trust Fund. So it is just not the case that America is in hock to China. But let's say, for the sake of argument, and because we are charitable here on the Rachel Maddow Show, it is indeed the case that American deficits contribute to American decline, which is the theme of the Hoekstra ad against Debbie Stabenow, who he has dubbed Spend It Now, championing himself as Spend It Not. If that is the case, then you have to ask, who has been contributing to the rising deficits that, if you believe Hoekstra's own rhetoric, have so debilitated America? Pete Hoekstra was a member of Congress between 1993 and 2010, 17 years. And he voted for the Medicare Part D plan in 2003, which increased the deficit by at least $375 billion, creating a new social insurance program that extends out into perpetuity with no way to pay for it. He voted for the Bush tax cuts, not just round one, but also round two, which increased the deficit by at least $1 trillion. He voted for the Iraq War, all of which was funded by deficit spending, total cost roughly $800 billion. Almost another trillion added dollars in deficit spending. So if anyone, I think our fictitious Chinese adversaries should be thanking him.